Hey guys, Scott with Graymac. Today I want to talk to you buyers out there that have been sitting on the sideline for the past 2 or 3 years waiting for that time to buy. And I can tell you now is getting that time to buy. I can tell you that because I've had 4 buyers recently that have went under contract that we've been looking for a house for quite a long time. And they went under contract and they all were able to get something out of it. So let me just kind of walk you guys through the reason now is the time to buy. So the great thing about right now is there's less competition in the markets. So whenever you go to a house, you will see that there are now hardly any showings. I had an open house last weekend at a very nice property in Greensboro. However, what would normally be slam wall-to-wall open house was 4 different groups of people coming through. So the market's changing and there's less competition, which means less multiple offers that you guys are going to have to fight with. Now, the next thing is seller concessions. So recently, I've been able to get a lot of seller concessions from my buyers. So if you look at it, for example, one of my properties that I was able to get under contract for a buyer, I ended up with $20,000 in seller closing costs and also due diligence repair requests. So the buyers had all their closing costs paid for, and they got a check cut for the remainder of the $20,000 to a glass company that's going to replace their windows for them as soon as they close. So another one, for example, I had a buyer that went under contract on a property and we got $8,500 back in seller concessions at the end, which basically paid his entire closing cost. So that would not have happened 6 months ago. It wouldn't happen, even 3 or 4 months ago. But the market's changing, and the market's not bad. It's just becoming a buyer's market. So everybody thinks a seller's market, oh, it's a great market. And yeah, it's easy if you're a seller, but when you're a buyer, it really is horrible to try to buy a property in a seller's market. We're also not seeing a lot of appraisal gap guarantees anymore. So if you guys know what appraisal gap is, what it basically means is if you offer $300,000 for a property, but the appraiser says this house is only worth $290,000, now there's a $10,000 difference in the price, which means you have to come out of pocket for that additional $10,000 in order to meet the requirements of your loan. Most loans are 80-20, which means the mortgage company pays 80% of the loan, you pay 20%, which is your down payment. But if they come in at $290,000, you need to bring an additional $10,000 to closing to cover that appraisal gap or try to get a second appraisal. And we're not seeing that too much in this market anymore. So the rate buy down, something else that's super cool that we can look at. So, interest rates are right now around 6.875, somewhere around 7. So it really varies a lot. And so what we can do is a part of the seller concessions, we can have them pay for closing costs, but we can also look at doing a rate buy down, which means we can lower your interest rate and the seller pays for it at closing to lower your interest rates down to maybe 6, maybe 5%. So you're not trying to pay those crazy high percentage rates on your loans. And that's part of that negotiation piece, which goes into the next piece too, is we are seeing negotiations that we have not seen in a couple of years. So I want to make sure you guys understand that you can negotiate when you go into a house, and your agent should be negotiating for you. If they are not negotiating for you, they're not doing their job. Now, you need to come in and understand that it's okay to negotiate. And as a buyer, you shouldn't have to go in and buy a house that you're going to have to put a lot of money into. So the seller, really should be helping prep their house, getting ready for sale, but you should also be able to have some money to fix some of these issues, especially the main big issues, what we call sometimes the red issues or the big flags that need to be fixed. Things like, if you don't have smoke detectors or if you have, aluminum wiring, things like that. Those are the big issues. Or you've got some type of structural issue. Now, you need to get that fixed because we are in the market where you can negotiate that and get money for it. Next thing is get the house you want. People over the past 2 years have bought a house and there's been a lot of buyer's remorse. They paid too much for it. They have bought a house that didn't meet their needs, but they bought the house that, they just wanted at that time. They just needed a house, or they just wanted to buy a house because the market's going up and it's always going up. So you can take your time, find the house that you want, make an offer, negotiate the price, and then get a good deal on the house. And the last thing, of course, would be, I want to tell you folks to marry the house and date the rate. And so you guys may have heard that before, but if you find the house that you want, buy the house now. You're locked in at current interest rates. If they go up higher, it's not going to affect you. But if they go lower, you can always refinance out at a later time. And then if you guys have any questions about this, reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about it. But it's really, really important to make sure that you know, as a buyer, you have options out there. And then now is a great time to buy. Let me know if you have any questions.